like, no, I can talk about my product all day, anytime.
Exactly. I just like, I'm sure I could ask you about anything. I already like looked at all your stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, she's like me, but found her niche.
Yes.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, we'll wait for a few people to trickle in just now. It is Friday night. I don't know what we were thinking.
Yeah, but everyone, that used to be the thing, is like you didn't admit that you were staying home, but everyone stays home now. So
I know. And I look forward to it. On Friday night, I'm like going to have my glass of wine. I'm just going to chill out.
Never thought I'd love my couch so much.
I know.
On my couch with my dogs.
Well, for everyone that's joining in, good evening. My name is Ruby from Real Dog Box. I am here with Angela from CBD Dog Health. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You betcha.
We are going to be talking about CBD for dogs specifically. Very big market, as I understand. I went to Super Zoo last year and a few pet expos, and like there were just so many. Even I was overwhelmed.
Oh, I know.
And the reason why I asked Angela to come on tonight to talk about CBD was because about a month ago, as the 4th of July was approaching, a lot of people were asking us for CBD recommendations. And I had to be honest and just say, like, dude, I have no idea. There's so many out there, and I just didn't feel comfortable making any sort of recommendations. Now, the 4th of July has passed, and I don't know if you heard about this, but here in San Diego, where we have our one set of fireworks in Imperial Beach, I don't know if their like order of fireworks didn't come from overseas, but they ended up doing a drone light show.
I have saw a lot of people do that. Did you know, Ruby, that fireworks don't have to make noises?
What?
Fireworks, the noise is added. Like there's countries where it's out, they don't allow the noise, and so they literally like play and put it to music.
So yeah. I did know that. Well, I have seen
the drone thing and thought that is so much nicer. Anything's nicer than sounding like we're under attack.
Right.
What dogs must think.
Right. So perhaps that becomes the new thing, but I don't think it's going to change overnight. But fortunately, we have you on to talk a little bit more about using CBD for anxiety and maybe some other things, seizures, pain relief, cancer, even.
As I say, I just kept my dog's cancer from spreading for 26 months and counting. So she's still with us, and she has osteosarcoma, which is usually you're given 4 to 6 months, even if you do treatment. And we're 26 months from her diagnosis, and we've never done anything conventional. She has been on a full spectrum hemp extract. She also has been on medical marijuana from Florida's dispensary, ketogenic diet, which is why I love your treat so much, because I can give her something and know that it doesn't have any crap in it. So thank you for doing that. And making meals interesting. I love that too. I think she gets bored with the fact that she's on this strict diet. So these little added, being able to add these raw things on that are just one ingredient really make a difference. So thanks for doing that.
Yes.
It is, you start to understand now that so much more research has come out, you start to understand why this incredible medicinal plant has been kept from us, because it does so many things for us.
Yeah, I literally have so many questions. While we're waiting for a few people for everyone that's already in here, tell me where you're joining in from. And I think that will give us an idea about our audience and what things we need to cover. How did you get involved with all this? If I read correctly, you started CBD Dog in 2016.
Yeah.
So around the time that we started as well, and you must have done something before that.
I did. Before that, I always had my rescue farm, which was farm animals and dogs. But in 2015, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and that's how I discovered medical cannabis for myself. Because I live a pretty natural lifestyle. I try not to take any, medications. I try to find whatever works in nature or what I can do to change my diet or whatever it is. So I didn't want to take the pharmaceutical drug that was prescribed. I instead started researching to see what I could find that would work. And that's how I found cannabis. And I took it, and I had never really done anything before. I think I tried it once in high school and I didn't like it. So I tried it, and not only did it get rid of my pain, but my stress and anxiety levels went down. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, there's going to be a hangover or a side effect. No, nothing.
And in what form was it? Were you smoking it?
Smoking it, which then graduated to tinctures, and then learning to dose it. And then just, everything was so positive and wonderful about it that I was like, look, I got to find out more about this. And when I looked more and more into it, I sold my business and threw myself into the industry.
Wow.
And in 2016, I was invited to be a part of the University of Vermont School of Medicine's inaugural class in the study of medical cannabis for its therapeutic uses. And that's where I learned everything, and where I learned that animals also had the endocannabinoid system like we do, and dogs in specific have more receptors than we do. So they really react to the medicine really well. So that's when I knew, okay, this is where I'm going to go. The direction I'm going to take. And I couldn't find a product on the market at that time that was made specifically for pets. I saw people taking human products and putting a paw print on the label and calling it a pet product. But oftentimes those had ingredients that you have to remember that when I went to the University of Vermont, they teach you that it's medicine. Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to make a medicine, which I couldn't believe I was making medicine, an all natural plant medicine, that it has to be done a certain way and a right way. And we certainly don't want to put anything in it that's going to cause harm or make things worse. And they would have artificial flavorings in them, or xylitol, which is a deadly artificial sweetener it's not good for us, but it will kill a dog. So, that's what I was finding in these bottles. So that's when I was like, okay, I need to make a real plant medicine out of cannabis for pets.
Yeah,
that's what I did.
Can I just tell you, the natural flavors, that kills me. I'm like, what does that even mean? And why is it in everything?
And what you can put under flavors or fragrance or whatever is so many different ingredients, and they're usually artificial or synthetic, and you do not want to take them, inhale them, nothing. Yeah. So people don't understand that. I also had some knowledge in essential oils and other plant medicines and adaptogens. So I combined them. So like for my tincture for allergies and arthritis, I put frankincense and turmeric in it. Mm-hmm. For our calming one, I added lavender essential oil into it. So they all are super beneficial, and they're more targeted to different things that basically ailments that bother our pets. So pain, inflammation, anxiety, stress.
For sure. No, and there's so many combinations of things, and how holistically everything works together. It's not just, the cannabinoid system, but also like what we're feeding our pets, what we're feeding ourselves, the entire environment.
We have everybody. I don't want everyone to think that I kept my dog's cancer away just by using hemp. I actually fed her a ketogenic diet also. So I did nothing to feed that cancer. And we also combined other adaptogens, which are plants and mushrooms that basically get into our body and do whatever our body needs. So the medicinal mushrooms that I added all have been proven already to have anti-cancer and anti-tumor properties. So when you put more adaptogens together, they become even more powerful and synergistic. And if you're supporting that gut and that microbiome in the gut, you really can do some incredible things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to get into so much. I have questions about dosage. I have questions about full spectrum and broad spectrum. And I think we have a lot of people that are already using your product and very happy with it here in the comments. Just so you guys know, typically on our lives, we go for about 30 minutes. I'm going to be chatting with Angela, asking all the questions that I have and that our team put together. But if you have questions, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the comments, and we'll pull them up for the last 30 minutes or so. And if we have to have a part 2, we probably
will have
But let's start super, super basic. I'm saying CBD, you're saying hemp. Can you just sort of break it down? What are we talking about here?
Absolutely. So when you're saying CBD, that is there's over 114 discovered cannabinoids, which are compounds in the cannabis plant. So I think I'm gonna back up and say cannabis plant first, because cannabis, hemp, and marijuana are a cannabis plant.
Mm-hmm.
If the cannabis plant has more THC in it, it therefore has less CBD, and it's known as marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
And if it has more CBD, it therefore has less THC, and it's known as hemp. And then there's everything in between. So you can literally have a plant that is a 1-to-1. Not sure what they'd call it, but they're probably going to call it marijuana because it has more than the 0.3% THC that hemp is supposed to have. What's so confusing is that these are all made up definitions that the United States government came up with. So things like marijuana is a racial slur from prohibition, so we shouldn't even be calling it that. And hemp is, still has THC in it, and then there's industrial hemp, which has even less, which is what they use fiber from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But everything is cannabis. So when we say CBD is just one compound that's in the cannabis plant. THC and CBD are the two major cannabinoids that should and absolutely must be present for it to be a medicine and to do all the things that I'm going to tell you that it does, and that has been proven.
Okay.
Also, the best thing is that when you do find that it has that 0.3% THC, you're usually dealing with a full spectrum product, which means that we took that hemp plant, a flower grows out of it. That flower is where all the medicinal properties live. All the essential oils live in that flower. There's some in the plant leaves, and in the human market, they usually cut that stalk off, dry the flower, and the rest of the plant goes to the pet industry, broad spectrum products, more processed products. The flower is where the medicine lives. So we make a human grade product specifically for pets.
Got it.
So all we do is extract all of those medicinal properties from that flower and put them in a bottle with coconut, MCT oil from coconuts, and hemp seed oil, which are both really helpful in the absorption of the full spectrum hemp extract.
So the MCT oil is like your carrier.
Exactly.
Okay.
Hemp seed oil can be a carrier also, but we put them both in because hemp seed oil is so packed with amazing omegas, and that's just the seed of the plant is that nutritious. It's an amazing functional food and has so many benefits. So that we went ahead and added that in there too. Yep. But that's the difference between the two plants. And CBD and THC are just two of 114 cannabinoids, all which have medicinal properties. On top of that, there's something called terpenes, which also have medicinal properties, flavonoids, proteins, fatty acids, all these things in this plant. When you extract it, you want all of those things because they all have a job and they all help make everything else work. So that's why I'm not a proponent for isolates. We might get down the road one day and discover the isolate of this one cannabinoid specifically treats something, but we don't know that. And why would we take an isolate when you can get it in its full spectrum straight from the flower?
So when you're saying isolate, you're saying it's CBD without the THC or vice versa, but you need both of them to work together. And that's what.
Not just both of them, all of those.
Right.
So a broad spectrum, the full spectrum is you got everything. A broad spectrum product is they just took out the THC, and you can't just take out the THC. You're going through another process. It's kind of like raw feeding.
Got it.
High pressure processing, and why we're all against it because it's one more process, and that's the whole reason we're feeding them raw in the first place. So less processed is always better when you're dealing with a natural product. So when you go through that extra process, you're taking out not just the THC, you're taking out other things. So, and the THC has to be a part of it to make it work. And then an isolate is them just taking out the CBD or the THC or the CBG or whatever. because we learned that CBG does this. You know, it's really great for eye health, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only good at eye health when it has all of those other compounds with it. So by itself, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
They're cheap. They're the cheapest. They're the ones that you see that I don't know if it still goes on where you can add CBD to your coffee. You know, it's usually a powder.
Oh, okay.
So that type of thing.
Okay, so well, since we're on that topic of the isolates, I think the other terminology that we hear frequently is the broad spectrum.
Right.
How does that differ from full spectrum?
So broad spectrum is the when they just take the THC out.
Okay, so it's just CBD and other stuff.
Yeah.
So no THC.
Yeah, like one of the new terminologies we see is full spectrum, because remember, on all the research where it's been proven what cannabis can do, it has THC in it. So you guys are all learning that full spectrum is the way to go. So now what they're saying instead of broad spectrum is full spectrum with no THC, which is the definition of broad spectrum.
Got it.
So they're going to confuse the heck out of you, and they're going to take what marketing, terms you're like, oh yeah, full spectrum, but with no THC. Wait a minute, kind of thing. So that's how they get around, doing that. But you always want to use a full spectrum product now. That's all that's been proven to work. And the only way to prove that it is a full spectrum product is by getting a certificate of analysis. So on our product, for instance, we have a QR code on every single label that you scan, and it takes you to the batch number that's on the bottom of the bottle, and will show you the certificate from a third-party lab that tested it, and will show you exactly what's in this bottle and what's not in this bottle. So that's where you'll be able to see. You don't see all 114 cannabinoids or terpenes and flavonoids, but you do see the major ones. So CBD's on there, THC's on there, CBDA, CBG. And as long as you see that little blip for the THC, then you've got a full spectrum product. If you only see a whole bunch of CBD and nothing else, you're usually dealing with an isolate. Yeah. If you see some blips everywhere and no THC, then it's a broad spectrum. But I would never buy a product unless you have easy access to that COA. Otherwise, you have no idea what's in that bottle. And let me tell you what, people are doing. It's completely unregulated. People can do whatever they want, put anything in a bottle. News, if you're buying it off of Amazon right now, most likely you're getting a hemp seed oil instead of a full spectrum or even a broad spectrum.
Got it.
Because Amazon doesn't even allow it. So it's
really?
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I have some questions about regulation.
You have to hide that you're selling it. Like, we know companies who are doing it, but you'll see you can't put hemp. You have to change all the labels. You have to take it off. You can't say CBD. Yeah.
Is that a state by state thing?
No. It is legal, and hemp is legal in all 50 states, but it's not legal in the world. So therefore, we can't advertise it or say the word CBD or hemp anywhere online, including Amazon. So in Amazon, I guess because it sells all over the world, doesn't allow it. So you have to have special credit card processors. It's gotten a lot better. It doesn't even faze me now. But when I started, oh my gosh. Yeah. I was literally like I was dealing with heroin, like I was a drug dealer. And one of the credit card processors said, yeah, you might as well be selling porn. That's what category you're in. And I'm like, I sell a complete legal product for pets. This is crazy.
Yeah. Well, another layer to add on to that is some of these natural products are taking away from other industries. And so there's a reason why it's
like raw food does for the pet food industry. Yeah.
Well, I know a few people have questions about efficacy and the time frame. I know someone in our live right now in our audience who was our customer for a long, long time says that she gave up on CBD a while ago, but discovered Heal a couple months ago, and it has been working great. So I'm hoping you could sort of shed some light on the efficacy, how effective full spectrum is. Like, how do we know it's working? When are we going to see the results?
So the reason that most don't work is because they're not a full spectrum product. They're probably not manufactured the right way, meaning like for instance, we nano emulsify so that the moment you squirt that oil on the gums, it's absorbed immediately into the bloodstream instead of having to be eaten and go through the digestive system where most of the medicine is going right out. It's unregulated. So most of them have no CBD or not, who knows what they have in them. So this is, when you said you went to the event and saw all the other CBD companies, I mean, when we launched, it became legal in 2018. I created them in 2016. So I had 2 years of going crazy. But what I did is I have a groom shop. So I was treating dogs left and right, figuring out what things worked on, that type of thing. So I got to do that, which was pretty cool. But when we went to Super Zoo, we were like one of 40 companies that had anything to do with cannabis, hemp seed, anything. The following year, it was over 200.
Wow. I think that was the year that I went, and I was like, this is nuts.
It should have just been called Super CBD or whatever. So that happens at every event now. So we don't participate in them. We do our best on educating pet parents so that they know how to choose a good product, regardless if it's our product and regardless if it's even a hemp product. This goes for essential oils, any type of all natural, homeopathic, herbal tincture. You're always going to want a COA to prove what's in it and what's not in it. What that COA also does is, because hemp is they're called bioaccumulators, like mushrooms are. They suck everything out of the earth and air. So where they're grown and how they're grown is very important. That COA will also show you that there are no pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, anything in that product. So that's also important, because if we're dealing with a sick pet, the last thing we want to do is give them anything worse. Okay, so
yeah, where's your product? Where's your product grown?
Colorado. We do everything in Colorado.
Of course.
I know. It really is. They're the leaders, and they've been doing it right from the beginning, and they haven't changed. They just get better and better and better. So we're very happy. We at first had our salves and treats done in California, but we moved everything over to Colorado now. But we hear it every day, all the time, especially from vets. It doesn't work. I've tried it. It doesn't work. And a lot of times it's really low milligrams. So you'll notice on ours, I dosed and came up with what I learned in school of what dosage worked for what disease, what had already been proven. So our Heal, for instance, one dropper full is 42 milligrams of full spectrum hemp extract, 1,100 milligrams the whole bottle. In 2018, we were the only ones that had a tincture that potent. Because it takes 50 to 90 milligrams of full spectrum hemp extract to fight cancer. So why would I give you less than that kind of thing? So people try it. I convince them. A lot of times if we're at a show, have you tried it yourself? Yeah, it doesn't do anything. I go, can I give you a dropper of mine? Give it to them. And they literally turn around and turn right back around and go, I already feel something. I'm like,
really?
That's what you're supposed to. Yeah. And I tell people that it's of course it depends on your tolerance, how, whether you use cannabis or whatever, but just taking a dose every single day, it's like you get home and go, what? I don't remember really wanting to kill anyone today. It just kind of takes the edge off, which I think everybody needs right now. But, that's probably why she tried other products and they didn't work. And they were either in isolate, they were a broad spectrum, or they were super low milligrams. And, she would have to give so much to get to where it actually makes a difference. So that's probably the biggest reasons. Also, because I put other adaptogens in it, it makes it a little bit more powerful and a little bit more synergistic and work a little bit better. So that's a big difference between others also. But that's why a lot of people also are scared of it and they don't give enough, Right. He didn't calm down. How much did you give him? 2 drops. Like drops or droppers? Drop.
Right.
Yeah, no. So there's nothing to be scared of. They actually did a research study to see how much THC it would take to kill a person. And of course, they did it on animals. So when people say there's no research on animals, no, there's research for humans done on animals.
Mm-hmm.
And in that research study, they did it on rats, beagles, and chimpanzees. 2 rats died of asphyxiation where they passed out, threw up, and choked on their own vomit. No beagles died. No chimpanzees died. So
and that's with the concentrated THC.
9,000 milligrams of THC,
Wow.
and no one died. So there is no.
So we shouldn't be afraid of overdosing.
Yeah.
And we often aren't seeing the benefits because we're not maybe giving enough. But what's the time frame where we might see results?
So every dog is different, and how they metabolize it is different. So like right now with Nina, I have her dosed all the time. So I literally every 8 hours am giving her dose. And then at night I add the THC, which is a crude, it comes out really sticky, and I wipe it on her gums. So there's more proof that THC won't kill your dog, because I've been giving her 10 milligrams of THC for 2 years now.
And why is that? Like, why both of them?
So the cancer she has is a very painful cancer. It's bone cancer. So I'm doing so much because it's a very aggressive and very painful cancer. So osteosarcoma starts off in primary bone tumor, usually the leg, wrist is where hers was. And within 4 to 6 months, it has spread super fast in lungs, and your dog is dead. We've kept it from spreading. So it makes me think, could I prevent it from ever happening? So now in my opinion, and from what I've learned and have experienced, if I have a large breed dog, 1 in 4 large breed dogs is getting osteosarcoma. So I would say after a year old, I said this to a couple of my holistic vets, and they're like, I go, after a year old, I think they should be on full spectrum and get a dropper every day. She goes, why wait till a year? Just start it right from the beginning. And I'm like, okay, I will.
So now we're moving from treatment to prevention, which is amazing. And just out of curiosity, if you don't mind me asking, what were you feeding Nina before her ketogenic diet?
I was still feeding her raw. It just, I wasn't paying attention to, the proteins too much, or the carbs, or that type of thing. I just got really strict and made sure that she had no carbohydrates, no hot proteins, that I was only feeding her and not the cancer at all, because any carbs turn right into sugar, which sugar and glucose is what feeds the cancer. And we didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Always good stuff for her. And she's always had a very hearty appetite and loves raw food.
I rarely see a dog turn down raw food, but it does happen.
Right.
And there's a lot of suggestions for that. But the thing is, we know, even for ourselves, how to make better choices in what we're putting into our bodies. And I think it's just sort of keeping that in mind for our dogs.
I think that through this journey, that's been the biggest lesson for me, is that what we suffer from, our dogs suffer from. Like literally everything, from food and what's in our food, and how to pick a good food and where it comes from, and how all of our food is nutrient, it doesn't have the nutrients that it used to. And so how important supplementation is, but then being able to supplement with a real food or plant that will help, I think really helps in keeping things natural.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've given me some confidence in what to look for, and very little convincing is needed on my part to talk about prevention. No, honestly, no one wants to deal with it after the fact. And we had a Doberman as well who had cancer and didn't know anything. We didn't know anything. So I'd be willing to make those changes much earlier on. But going back to treatment, and guys, we're going to take questions from you here in a few minutes. So feel free to start dropping them in the comments so I can pull them up. why would somebody want to use CBD? Like, what kinds of things would they be treating, or symptoms, clinical signs that they're seeing at home?
So of course, arthritis was how I discovered it, and then how it helped my stress and anxiety, and then learning about how it does that. But every senior pet in person should be on a full spectrum hemp extract.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Inflammation is going to happen whether you want it to or not. And it literally is getting rid of inflammation in your entire body. The endocannabinoid system is responsible for keeping all of your other systems in operation and working right, and keeping your body at homeostasis. So when you have a deficiency in your endocannabinoid system and you have inflammation is the basis of all disease.
Mm-hmm.
So you're literally doing what you can to prevent disease. It's just like how everybody's taking turmeric now and feeding turmeric to their dog. Well, turmeric has some of the same compounds that cannabis does. That's why it works so well. And it interacts with your endocannabinoid system, just like mushrooms do. So that's why we have these incredible plants that we do know about that do so many wonderful things. Well, that's why.
Yeah.
It's just like cannabis. Just imagine that cannabis is the king of all the medicinal plants and the king of adaptogens. So it's turmeric on steroids, but I hate steroids. It's turmeric on, times infinity.
Next level.
But when I created the 3 tinctures, I created them for what my dogs at my rescue were suffering from, what I saw the dogs suffering from coming into my shop, which, I've said this many times, I would say like 80 to 90% of the dogs coming into my shop are suffering from something, which just broke my heart. Sometimes we know what it is, sometimes we don't. So I created those 3 tinctures. I like having all 3 on hand. So when you have an anxiety or stress situation, you have the calm. When your dog gets a little older or experiences allergies for some reason, you've got the ease. And then when they get older and they need more support, and if a disease pops its ugly head up, you've got heal. So all of them are made specifically for ailments and different times in the life that you may need them. But I wanted the power to be able to get rid of pain and stress and have that power here, because that ultimately, when something goes wrong or something bad happens, an accident or something, what do we hate the most? And that's them being in pain and suffering. And to be able to have something that I can get rid of that, I feel very powerful and very happy that it's also all natural. And I know I can't overdose them or hurt them.
Right.
So I think everybody should have a bottle on hand for that reason alone.
Yeah. No. Well, can you sort of break down? I'm really curious about the anxiety and stress. I have, from personal experience, seen how that works for humans, and I'm sure it's not too different for our dogs.
Mm-mm.
But how does it work? And maybe the follow-up question to that is, like, when we are preparing for a big event like the fireworks, what kind of timeline? Like, is it just going to work overnight? Like, oh, I ordered my bottle, it's the 4th of July.
It does. It works for both. Some dogs are just have general anxiety all the time, or just when you leave them alone, separation anxiety, or situational anxiety. So it depends. There's fireworks, there's a thunderstorm, I hate going to the groomer, I hate going to the vet. So every dog is different. So we can't just say, here's the dose that's going to work. So for anxiety, for instance, before the anxious thing happens, you can give it to them 20 minutes beforehand. So if it's fireworks, I start and keep them basically on it all day long, because of course what happens, people are letting them off all day long. So we will be outside enjoying ourselves, they'll even go off and they're already dosed up. And then by the time that I'm wearing them out, I'm doing all the other things, so that by the time the fireworks happen, they're in their crates asleep, music's on, and they're dosed. And nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Let's say it's separation anxiety, thunderstorms. Every dog is different and has nothing to do with their weight. I always like to say Nina is 60 pounds and Odie is 9-pound Schnauzer. And Nina would need half a dropper to calm down for a thunderstorm. And Odie used to need 2 full droppers to calm down.
Mm.
Didn't stay that way. Well, he also is deaf now, so that kind of helps. But he doesn't need as much as he used to in the beginning. And in the beginning, it took that much. You literally give it to him. And if you have somebody that's super anxious, go for the full dropper and then wait and see what happens. If in 20 minutes that dog is not calm, you can give him another dropper. Very rarely have we had to go up to 3 dropperfuls to calm down a dog, but sometimes we have, and or had to give it again in 3 or 4 hours. So remember, I'm at a groom shop where we go through more calm CBD for anxious dogs now, especially because we're seeing all the pandemic puppies that have never been socialized or had their nails cut or whatever. So we literally go through a bottle a week at my groom shops. But it's amazing how we'll try it for everything. Anxious barking works. Biting works. Won't sit still, freaking out over the hairdryer works. So you just have to find what their dose is. I've never had a person who used it correctly that it did not work. A regular one without lavender essential oil should do the same thing. But like, we'll get people to go, okay, I have ease. Can I use that to calm my dog down? Sure. It doesn't work as well as the one that has the lavender in it. Lavender has some of the same compounds as cannabis does and interacts with the endocannabinoid system, is also an adaptogen, so that's why they're more powerful. And it's made specifically to calm your pet down.
Right.
So
how much did you say a dropper was?
So the dropper of the calm and the ease is 12 milligrams of full spectrum hemp extract, which means it has all of that. 9 milligrams of that is CBD. Heal is 42 milligrams. So it's 3 times more powerful than the other 2. And that's the one that is the seizure stop, stop seizures, prevent seizures, help fight cancer, Cushing's disease, IVDD. I'm going through all the things of the cases that we've had where what's beautiful is that the side effects, I forgot who just said this to me, the side effects of using cannabis are all good instead of them being bad side effects.
Sure.
So you're taking, we had a dog taking it for a tumor and her Cushing's went away. And that's how we discovered it worked so well on Cushing's disease.
Wow.
Just things like that constantly. Nina, in the beginning, we would give it to her for thunderstorms, and she had a little fatty lipoma on a eye injury. It got rid of that. And we were like, that was one of the first things that happened.
Yeah.
How fast we could get rid of tumors. Cancerous tumors, fatties are a little bit, lipomas, anything that was like the hard whatever, how quickly we could do it with sometimes just the salve, sometimes the tincture in the salve. It really was amazing, and never with the pharmaceutical drug involved.
Yeah. Well, so I have a question about the vessel. So I understand salves, I understand the tinctures. Treats, however, are confusing to me. We've had a few people approach us about somehow using their tinctures on our treats, but I thought that heat would somehow affect its efficacy.
It does.
Well, can we talk about that?
Yeah. I remember launching at Super Zoo in 2018, and everybody had a treat, and I was going, I can't do that. Why not? So you have to remember, guys, this is a brand new industry. This is which is kind of fun and cool, but you have to understand how many bad players there are. I went to school for it. I know how it works and what it's supposed to do. So let's pretend, Ruby, you're one of those bad players who just goes CBD $signs. You get all the pet industry magazines. They were shoving it down our throat. There's ad after ad. You can white label anything. I can't tell you how many times I've been approached about white labeling my product. I'm sure you have too, going on and on. So they don't know. So they literally bought CBD and mixed it in and baked it and killed all of the medicinal properties in it. And there's nobody regulating it. And you guys are buying it. And we don't even know what the hell it is.
Right.
So we had a treat. We had a freeze-dried salmon treat that we actually sprayed our oil on. But that was our California manufacturer who did us wrong, and we had to stop our treats. And to this day, it's been almost 2 years now, we still haven't been able to find somebody that we trust.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
So it's funny because I thought, I was going to have trouble finding, the seeds and it growing right and the farmers. That's the easiest part. The hardest part was finding pure essential, pure lavender and pure frankincense and pure turmeric that I could put with my things, pure MCT oil. That was actually harder to find because we're not used to that. Did you know that you should look for a COA for your essential oils that you're using?
No.
So this is how we follow the hemp industry, and this is how the hemp industry is self-regulating ourselves. So this is how we are being an example. So those that are following the hemp industry guidelines, where we want to make this legal and it is legal, but accessible to everybody, and that there's no constraints on it whatsoever, because there shouldn't be. This is what we're doing, being as transparent as possible.
Yeah.
Completely unregulated, so anybody can start up a company and put stuff in a bottle, and it's really scary.
Yeah, no, that's unfortunate. We see ourselves doing something similar in our industry, and the number of people that will throw around the term air dried, and I'm like, you're not air drying. What are you talking about? But no one's going to stop them. If it sells, it sells. And if they've got a great marketing team, then that's what they're doing.
I know it's I look at, who's getting into it now, and it just makes me laugh. I'm like, stay in your lane, you suddenly see it and everybody did it. And I just was like, okay, you'll be back. Like I would meet with like a shampoo company. I'd find my favorite shampoo company and go, let's collaborate. And then the next thing I see, they're releasing something. And then the next thing I see, it's gone and it's not there anymore, and they're back talking to me again. I'm like, oh, hi, yeah, I remember you. Too late now.
No, it's cutthroat out there. I know. So back to and guys, we're gonna have a long conversation after this, because clearly we have so much to talk about industry wise. But so back to heat. This is a funny question. Let's say someone lives in their car. Would the tincture go bad if it gets too hot? So
tincture won't go bad, but you are changing its quality, its medicinal quality. So heat does several things. So it'll either make something less potent or more potent. So I would never leave it. You always keep it in a dark, cool place. And that includes treats also. So yeah, you can make your treats either more potent with the THC, or depending on how long you leave them in there, completely kill everything in it.
Yeah. So are you suggesting then to put the CBD or hemp oil back onto a treat right before you feed it, or just directly onto the gums?
What the best way to do it is to lift up the lip and squirt it right onto the gums. The more you can get in the gums so that it's in their mouth, the better. It gets absorbed through the mouth, right into the bloodstream. If you can only get it to them through their food, that you can do it that way also. You can also rub it inside their ears. It gets absorbed into there. But the best way is if you can get it in their mouth. And I know that it's hard sometimes, especially if you have a really old dog. I used to have a dog that she was 18 and had grand mal seizures. So I would wait till she was asleep and I'd slip that dropper in there and squirt it. Because she doesn't even have to swallow it. It just has to get in her mouth. So
yeah. Oh, they don't have to swallow it.
They do not have to swallow
because it's getting absorbed through the gums.
So I don't know if anybody has a really old dog where they just like don't even move, and their mouth they don't do anything unless it's drinking or eating. It's perfect because it sits in there and gets right absorbed.
And why there? How did we learn that was the optimal place?
Because of all the blood vessels in your mouth. You can also go up the butt, which is another place, but I don't know about you. I prefer doing that instead, and your dog probably does too. And actually on cats, their paws are super absorbent. So in between their toes. So if you've got a cat that you can't get it in their mouth, putting it on their paw pads is a really good place for them to get it.
Yeah. I know we're talking about dogs, but we have a lot of cat lovers in our audience. And I don't mean to skip over your questions, Taylor. I know you want to know if there's CBD for cats. Are we seeing the same sort of positive results in cats that we are dogs?
Yep. You have to remember any animal that has an endocannabinoid system, which is all animals. So birds, turtles, chickens. I'm thinking of all the animals. I've used them on wildlife, possums, raccoons, you name it, squirrels. Wow. So it works on anything that has a spinal cord and a central nervous system. So it only has been proven in dogs that they have more receptors than we do, but that's probably because they just studied them. But that's why dogs don't need, humans need. So if I had cancer, I would probably need a lot more THC than Nina does, because I don't have as many receptors as she does. Dogs are much more sensitive because of that. That's a good thing. That means we can get a lot more done with less medicine.
Got it. Okay, this is one from our team. Topical CBD versus oral. How do you know which to use?
So I created 3 salves. One of them is Remedy, which is if you've got a bump, lump, or tumor that you don't know what it is, or even if you do know what it is. And I combined it with eucalyptus and peppermint essential oils. And that's our tumor killer. That's our one that shrinks tumors up until they're gone and dead. If it were a cancerous tumor, I would do both the salve and then the heal inside the mouth to go at it both internally and externally. Dogs have 3 layers of skin, and the receptors are called CB1 receptor and CB2 receptor. Mm-hmm. And each layer of skin, they have both of those receptors. So putting something on the skin, which of course gets absorbed into, really does make a difference. I've had people get rid of tumors not doing the internal, just doing the external. So if you go to our website, you can see lots of pictures and before and afters. And wow. And you have to remember that this is a natural way that you're getting rid of a tumor, bump, or lump. And when a tumor dies, it is gross. It is not a pretty sight. And the good thing is that they are not in any pain. It doesn't hurt them or anything because it's a painkiller. But it's messy and gross and interesting. But people need.
Is that coming out?
Yeah, the tumor.
Yeah.
It's just like. It dies in front of you. It literally at first it swells and then it gets like black, like it looks like it's been burned.
Yeah.
And then it just starts oozing and then it's gone. And then you can't even see where the tumor ever was. Wow. So it's pretty cool. Now this didn't work on Nina's tumor, on her bone tumor. Although when I took her in at 14 months, I asked the vet, I go, look, I'm putting a salve on it. Do you think it does anything? I know it helps probably with discomfort. And she goes, yeah, keep doing it, because this would have been 3 times the size on any other dog. So we were like, okay, well, I'm going to keep on doing that in case it is doing it. It's not hurting anything. Yeah. The other salves, 2 salves. Now remember, I have the groom shop. So I developed all these by all the dogs, but my dogs were suffering from, and what I saw dogs at the groom shop was for the hot spots and skin conditions that we didn't know what they were, or if they were allergies. And it has manuka honey in it and ginger with full spectrum hemp extract and coconut oil. And then Nourish is for those really rough paw pads and noses, like bulldogs, the dogs that lick their nose, that as they get older, I don't know if you guys know this, they literally crumble and fall apart.
Yeah, it gets all crusty on the sides.
Yeah, they literally break off. It gets so hard and crusty. That freaked me out. So that's why which we use on every bulldog that comes through, and Frenchie that comes through our shop. But salves are a beautiful thing. It's funny. They're also human grade. So I have, physical therapists that give them to their patients. I have people come into my dog shop buying them for their sore joints. We are always rubbing it all over ourselves.
Yeah.
They smell really good and they work really well too.
And I have a follow-up question about that, the human and the dog CBD. But before, I don't know if we got to this question fully, but will it work the first time when given to dogs?
Absolutely. You just have to find its dose, and it depends what you're using it on. So let's say it was arthritis. Your dog, for instance, I made the tincture that I showed you, this one for my Schnauzer, which I don't know if he's here underneath me. And when he was 9, he, instead of running all the way up the steps, he would stop midway and like look at me like, I can't do it. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, he's in pain. So what you see is you give them their first dose, and sometimes that day, night, or even the next day, the next thing you know, they're upstairs. They're up back on the couch again. They're playing more. They're puppy-like again, which is what we hear the most. And what you're doing is the pain's gone. You've gotten rid of the pain. I've had dogs get up and walk again for the first time after one of them was 4 years. And it's just, imagine there's a communication between the brain and the spinal cord. And if it's telling the back legs to do something and it's inflamed, it can't get that message there. You take one dropper full of a full spectrum hemp extract, that inflammation goes away, and you open it up and they get up and they walk again. And people are like, what?
Like within minutes?
Huh?
Within minutes?
So the story I'm talking about, he gave it to the dog, went upstairs, turned around, and the dog was there. And he
my gosh,
couldn't believe it. So it depends. I've had dogs where, of course, if they haven't walked in a long time, there's a little bit dragging and whatever, getting used to using it again. But Daisy, one of our cases who came to us, one of our rescues, was lame in the back end, barely using one and dragging the other back leg, to by the time she was 2 years later, using all of them, running, still very old. She was 16, but complete use of her back end. So it's a really cool thing to see.
Yeah. Jenny asked, can you put it under the tongue?
Sure.
I feel like I remember the first time.
Put it under your tongue, but I don't know how to get it under theirs.
I know. Well, I guess the answer is you don't have to, because you can just put
get it in their mouth. So however you can get it in their mouth, do it. Make sure, though, if it is messy or there's wrestling going on, that you wipe off the dropper before you put it back into the bottle so you don't contaminate it.
I think you covered this early on, but we have a few people in the audience also asking the same question. So how do you determine a good tincture? What are we looking for when we're shopping?
You want to look for that certificate of analysis. So it should be easily to find. So if you're online, buying it online, look, you know how they show a product and then there's usually other pictures. There should be other pictures of the COA showing you what is in that bottle and what's not in it, or a link that takes you to the COA. And you should be able to match, like if you were to buy a bottle at a retail store, you should be able to come home and look up that COA. If that COA can't be found, or it's not what you thought it was, you should return that bottle, because that means you don't know what it is. If you can't find that COA, don't bother. Go find a company that's showing you and that's transparent. You want to make sure it's a full spectrum product. One of the things we added on to, how to pick a product is who's behind the product. It's kind of like who's behind your product. I find that when you can find the person behind the product, that it's good. Otherwise, it's probably a big old corporation that's handling it. And I think it's really good to know why, the who, what, where, and why behind products. I think that's the only way to know that you're getting, these products are what I give to my animals, and I can't imagine putting anything in it. Like, friends, I don't have my treats because I can't do them the right way. So I'm not going to bother until I can.
Yeah. And that was one of the questions. They said they missed your treats and wish that you would bring them back.
Well, we're in talks right now, hoping to partner. This would probably be our third or fourth person that we've gone down this very long journey with, where one thing or another doesn't work out. And usually it's because, we're really, I love animals. I don't eat animals. I know my dogs need to eat animals. So I want to know even where the animals come from. Are they, how are they raised? Are they eating what they're supposed to? And as you know, there's a really few people doing it right in this industry. Most people are doing it wrong. So we're not interested. We'd rather partner with someone who's doing it right, And we take what we're doing best and what they're doing best and combine them. So stay tuned. I'm hoping by you will have 3 choices for treats. So we'll go from none to probably 3 of them here in the next little while.
Yeah, and I think I cut you off, but something that you said is really important that I'm going to repeat now going forward is when you are looking at the certificate of analysis, you want to see the THC in there so you know that it is full spectrum, not broad spectrum, not an isolate. I feel like I'm so well versed. And this is a huge compliment to you because I do remember that day at Super Zoo where I was just like so overwhelmed by the number of people I talked to. And I like to think that, you know, I'm not no dummy. I get things when they're explained properly. And this was really the first time that I've had a very thorough understanding in such a short conversation. Thank
Good.
you.
I'm glad because it is really important for us to understand it. And we can't go by what the label says because it's just like dog food where they got the picture of the steak and the salmon and the broccoli and the peas, and there's less than 1% of that in the whole damn bag. Yep. So they're going to fool you. Like I remember when people would go, is yours, I'm trying to remember the term, PCR? What the hell is PCR? Oh, PCR is a term they came up with on Amazon so that they could try to say this is a hemp product, which was phytocannabinoid rich. It's just this terms, marketing terms that people come up with. So you never know. The reason, one of the funniest things that happened to me was that I couldn't figure out why the hell there were broad spectrum products for pets. Broad spectrum products existed in the human market for people who wanted to use it for anxiety or stress, but were worried they'd get drug tested.
Yeah, without the
dogs don't get drug tested. So I had to figure out how does the bad player play? The bad player released a broad spectrum product before the Farm Bill was went legal. So if you wanted to release your product before the Farm Bill, you released a broad spectrum product so that you could get all the attention. And then when it came out, you'd be good. So it's just a cheaper way. That Super Zoo I told you about, the biggest maker of the manufacturer of broad spectrum products, had 150 marketing sales reps at Super Zoo and literally went to every booth 3 or 4 times and said, let's say they probably would have gone to you and said, hey, Ruby, do you want your own CBD oil? And there you go. Smack your label on and you got your broad spectrum like everybody else has. The broad spectrum that doesn't do anything and doesn't work, which made my job more difficult and made me very upset because I think there's nothing worse than a person doing their research going, okay, this works, and going and buying one of those products and wondering why their dog's seizures aren't stopping and why their cancer isn't getting better. So I really do not like those bad players.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're ripping you off. That's there's no other way to say it.
Right. And they're hurting the dog in the meantime. So I don't think that there's no harm in it. I think there's a lot of harm in it. So that's probably the most important thing. If it's a full spectrum product, most of the time it's going to be organic because it's grown under the Farm Bill. So it would be, you would have to, buy it from somebody either online or from a store where you can talk to the person who's just like, if you're going to go buy food and treats or whatever, you got to find someone that you trust, whether that's your store or a website or a resource or someone like you that's going to go find and do the hard work to tell you how to find these good products. Because
I think accessibility, being able to have that conversation with a person that's making the product, doesn't matter what it is so important. Because no one can talk about it the way that you can, or the way that I can. I can talk treats all day. I can talk food forever.
I know, I'm sure you do. I would love to with you.
Yes, that's what we're going to be doing when we sign off, guys. Be jealous. I'm pouring my glass of wine.
I love it. And I will be lighting my joint.
Nice.
It's medical from the medical dispensary. So.
Hey, you don't got to justify yourself for anybody. So last question here. I know you said that your CBD is essentially human grade, made for dogs, but is there a difference on the market, especially in terms of price that we should know about?
I don't, for the salves, yes. The salves, if our salves were in a dispensary or, even a medical or even a recreational, they'd be at least double to triple what they are. But the tinctures are pretty on point to what the industry does. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's people that, I'm pretty sure a pet product is probably going to be cheaper than a human product purely because that's what people think, even though they're just as good. So literally you could put a human label on my products and probably mark them up 25 to 50% and people wouldn't be phased because that's what they're used to paying for a full spectrum hemp extract. And if they pay it and it works, they don't care. It's like they have finally found one, and you're not going to find a product for $29, $39, $49, $99 that's going to be potent enough to do what it's supposed to do.
Okay, good to know. That's very different than I think most things in the dog industry where you see the price marked up because it's made specifically for dogs. But it sounds like this is a great hack for us if we want to use it for ourselves.
Yes, we have lots of people using it. I take my horse tincture, which is it's the wrong bottle, but it's this. All the formulations are the same. They're just a little bit more potent. So the horse tincture is what I consider the human product, and that's what I take every day for my rheumatoid arthritis. That, and I'll take the Calm if I can't sleep at night. It helps you get through that 3 o'clock wake up in the middle of the night with all the things that you have to do or think about. But yes, absolutely. You should be able to try all of your dog's medicines.
Sure.
Natural medicines.
I say the same thing about their food. You should be able to eat what you're feeding your dog.
Matter of fact, most of the supplements I take are animal supplements because they're less restricted than the human ones. So I can get more pure forms of some of my favorite herbs and things like that. So all the stuff I take are dog things.
I love that.
All you have to do is one trip to the HVMA's conference and you'll be like, oh, here's all my other crazy people that take dog products.
Yes, well, I'll have to put that on my calendar for the next one.
It's really fun. You're with all holistic and integrative vets, and it's really a really cool, neat event.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a few people. Oh, their dogs take horse ease. Oh, and they do too.
Good. I can't read any of the comments without glasses. But thank you for whoever was putting them up bigger here. That definitely.
Yes, we had Hernando in the house.
Look at that, and we got CBD on it. Awesome. Yes. I'm glad someone was helping you guys. Good.
Well, I'm certainly going to have to peruse your website because this is a whole new world that you've just opened up for me. And my dog, Icon, is entering his senior years. He just turned 7. He's a large breed. He's an Anatolian Shepherd.
Wow. So please get him on something right away.
Yes.
I also have my full protocols on angelaardolino.com. So I have Nina's protocol. I have a
wonderful
lymphoma protocol, MCT protocol. But Nina's protocol, I would follow for any cancer. But yeah, I would start giving him something just to help keep any inflammation or anything away.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we covered a lot today about what to look for and how we can use CBD to treat a lot of things. But I am so interested in the prevention aspect. That is my jam. So I would love to learn more about that.
I'd be happy to trade with you, CBD for real dog box.
Yeah, I'm into it. I love trades. I love trades. Good. But for all of you guys in our audience, we are also going to be doing a giveaway. And we've done this in the past with different guests that we've had on our lives. And when I was asking Angela what she wanted to offer, she said something that just blew my mind, which was like, well, it depends on the dog and what they need. And I was like, so we are going to be doing a giveaway, and we haven't quite announced what product she's going to give away quite yet because she wants to offer something that is fit for you and your dog and their needs. So just keep a lookout for that. That's something that we're going to be posting later on this weekend. I think we got to all of the questions. Yeah, and
Wow.
we're wrapping up.
Yay.
Thanks again for joining, everyone. Thank you, Angela, for coming on and sharing all your knowledge with us.
Thank you, Ruby. Thanks for having me, and thanks for making such an incredible product.
Thank you. All right, guys, we'll catch you later.